birthday too, dude.
I don't know. Tell me what his favorite is and we'll make it happen.
Thank you for doing that. It'll be a long time.
There'll be video.
Don't worry.
How we doing?
What was your takeaway from yesterday, Russ? It felt like at times, at least I know from watching it, perhaps the wide receivers struggled to create separation. You think just the nature of red zone drills?
Yeah, I think, and I like what we've done where we started the first 2 days red zone, really take the volume off the guys' legs, get them back in the flow of playing. So it's different than we've normally done. We normally come out, day one install, first, second down, next day's third down, next day's red. We just went red zone, and it's more for the players, and I think they appreciate that. With that said, space is restricted. Things happen very fast. The install's still very small. I think yesterday probably had 26 reps in the red zone passes. We have 6 installs, 6 plays. So we're cycling through, and we'll tell Ryan, hey, plays 5, 10, 15, they're all the same play. If you'll just mix coverages for us so we can build our tapes. So they're doing the same thing. We're playing, they're playing. Obviously, we never want to turn the football over. I mean, that's number one. So there's things that happen that you'll coach off, but as of right now, we're putting our install together. They're putting their install together. We're hoping that the things we're putting in today, tomorrow, throughout the entirety of camp are things that are going to help us throughout the course of the season, not necessarily to win today or win yesterday or as we go. So still building.
What's your early thoughts on Brian Thomas and how he's handling camp so far?
He's handled things really well. He has retained a lot of the information that we taught through the summer, through the off season, carried it over very well. And again, everybody's getting used to the speed of the red zone particularly. So when you start there, it makes it tough at times for the condensed space, the way things happen. The value he's going to bring, we expect it to show up in the red zone. We expect to show up in all aspects of our offense as well. So those are things that, we haven't necessarily got to at this point in time. Again, it's about putting in concepts that we think will help us down the road, not necessarily they're going to win a rep today that on a scripted practice.
Russ, there's a general thought that the defense is ahead of the offense, just normally, regardless of the team early in camp. A, do you agree with that? And B, why would that be the case?
I don't know. I think there's a give and take within every rep. Again, we don't put the most value on scripted practices and things we're doing. We understand both groups, both sides of the ball understand we're trying to get something accomplished with this period. Red zone 7-on-7, we're putting in 6 concepts, they're putting in 4 coverages, and let's just mix and match and see how it goes. We continue to build these tapes as we teach. Our guys understand we may not run certain concepts against 2 high coverages. They may only have 2 high coverages in today. Through the course of the season, you're going to get caught at times where something was different than you expected, and you got to be able to do the right thing with football. You got to be able to adjust your route accordingly, and those are the situations we want our guys to see right now as we continue to build this thing out.
Have you noticed any big difference in the intensity level with Walker and Cam, both of them going into contract years, and obviously both of them battling for the job?
Not necessarily those two. I just think overall as a unit and really as a team, you see it feels very intense. I think guys understand very clearly what we're trying to communicate, what we're trying to get done, and guys have carried that over the practice field. So it's good to see as an entire unit the way these guys approach individual periods, small group drills versus team competitive periods.
Evan had 100 catches last year. What does improvement look like for him going into this year?
Yeah, I think just continuing to grow in the system and being able to do all sorts of things. We get up there in the install meetings and we say, this is our formation, we're running this play out of tomorrow, but we need you guys to understand this is a 3-man concept. The more you could play 1, 2, and 3, the more versatile you are, the more valuable you are for our offense as we go. So I think just understanding the details of if I'm 3, I run it like this. If I'm 2, I run it like that. If I'm 1, they need me to do this. Understanding that growth in the system as well with all these guys. It's obviously easier for Christian and Evan. They've heard it 75 times already, where these other guys just continue to grow. And that's something you guys don't necessarily see, but the evening walkthroughs, when there's a special teams walkthrough going on, we'll take all the skills, we'll go over here, and we'll just call out the concepts. We don't give them a formation, we don't give them we make them move around. And so we're just trying to give them those reps that when there's not a physical load being asked on them, but the mental reps are working their way through. And then you see that carry over where, every once in a blue moon, Trevor will pull something out in an adjustment in a drill, and these guys, they don't even blink, and they can execute a new concept based on the adjustment. That just gives us more value down the road.
Is Gabe Davis what you expected he would be? I know it's early in camp, but is he about what you expected he would be when you guys brought him in?
I think so. And again, I think a lot of the things that Gabe can do, you'll see more in the live periods, which we don't have a ton of those, but as the pads come on and things get physical, there's an element to Gabe that we expect to bring out of him, or him to bring out in our offense even more. Obviously, he's got length, he's got speed, he's got play speed. So those are all things that as we just continue to grow and build, that we think he'll add to the offense.
What's the biggest difference to you for year two guys entering training camp as opposed to that rookie year? Guys like Anton and Parker, they've all said they feel more confident. Is that something that you kind of see?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And part of it's knowing the offense, knowing what the expectations are. But the other thing is knowing where we do this drill at, where we do that. They're moving around on the field more confidently. It's not get back in line, watch somebody else do it so I know what's going on. It's, hey, we're running this drill. They jump to the front of the line. They know what the expectation is. And so you just see that. You get to see their skill set flourish a little more because the confidence is there. The confidence is just, I know what I'm doing right here. That helps a lot with those guys.
Is that something people maybe overlook with rookies entering their first camp, just how much is really being thrown at them?
Yeah, I think so. I remember a long time ago, as a player or as a coach, we traded for a player that had a significant role on our team. And I remember him just saying, dude, once you settle into just the way I drive to work, the way I walk where I park, the way I walk in the building, the way I get to these, that all is an element of it. There's just a confidence in those guys as they go. And now I can do my job better because I'm more confident in what's going on every single day as we go. So I think with young guys, that's typical. I mean, a lot of these guys live in small college towns. All of a sudden they move to Jacksonville. They're in this hotel. They're getting around here and there. They're meeting people they've never seen before. There's a lot more people in the building and training camp as well. So I think you just kind of let them settle in and they start to bring out who they are.
In regards to ETN, what aspects of his game do you want him to concentrate on during camp?
I think there's a big thing, and we're kind of making the push as a run unit of just understanding the targeting with everything. And the way we target certain blocks is going to determine where we think the ball will go. Now we want him to be very disciplined in the reads that we're giving him with the run game. And then we're trying to overexpose him in the pass game. Give him a ton of different things that he's got to do, that he's got to see a lot of reps. Because, you know, the more they're in those situations, the more we're gaining trust in them, the more they're gaining trust in themselves, and more importantly, the quarterbacks are gaining trust in those guys.
What's your vibe on the mentorship that Brian Thomas is getting from guys like Gabe and Christian, who got it themselves when they were rookies from some pretty good receivers?
Yeah, exactly. Those guys, I think they were brought up the right way. So they're carrying that over and passing that down to younger players. Not just Brian. I mean, we got a lot of young guys in that room, a lot of first, second-year players in that room. And those are two great vets really to look at and emulate as you go. And we talked about that when we got here. If everybody in their room, we feel like there's somebody that they should all the young players should be looking up to and kind of just follow that person. Whether you ask them questions or not, just notice what they do, you know, incorporate things that they do into their from their professionalism that you can incorporate into the way you approach your job. And I think that's just the right way to go about things as we go. And we have those guys that they should be looking at and emulating.
How big a change is the run blocking stuff you're talking about, and what might people see?
I don't think you'd even notice, honestly. I think I think there's just an emphasis on certain things, whether it's playing under center. You know, if you run a wide zone concept from under center versus the gun, the back's path, the relationship, the timing, the synchronization of a combination block into relation where the back is at that time, that changes a lot of things. And so we want to hone in on this is what we want to get good at. And we want to be able to create, whether the presentation changes, the scheme, the coaching points, the targeting, the read keys, we want to try to make that as uniform as possible. So the guys are getting that 10,000 kicks that we kind of talk about as we go.
To piggyback off of John's question, year two, Brenton Strange, Tank Bigsby, from where the season ended in January to where they are now, how would you assess that?
I think similar like we were talking about, there's just a confidence with those guys of understanding what's being asked of them every single day, what meetings look like, what individual periods look like, what each scheme looks like as we go. So again, you start to see that now they know, hey, why'd you do this? I did this because I saw this. And they give you great feedback and why they made decisions they make. And then there's sometimes where I did this because you guys told me to do that. And okay, we need to recoach that if we're not getting exactly the result we expected based on the way we communicated originally. So you're just able to communicate a little bit better because they have a lot of confidence. They're able to explain back to you why they did the things they did or what they interpreted in a coaching point you made.
What have you given Trevor, if anything, different this camp to work on?
I mean, obviously ball security is up there for us, but just ownership of the offense, of communicating not with necessarily the players, but us as well. What do you love about this? What do you not love about this? When do you like this? When do you not like this? What are you thinking? So a lot of times that's it. He does something and say, why'd you do that? And I just want to hear his answer. And then if we like the answer, okay, great, let's talk about that a little more. If we don't, we need to either pull the reins back on something, we need to reteach something, we need to reevaluate the way we do a certain thing. But you just want to see the ownership. It's his offense. He's the one holding the ball back there in the pass game. He's the one making those decisions. He's the one that has the ability to trump any protection we need, make any adjustments. So you just want to continue. He's still a young quarterback, you know. So you just want to hear his thinking process to make sure that we're getting exactly what we expect on certain things, or that we continue to cater the offense to fit him to he has an opportunity to flourish.
One
So I
thing
know
we've
he's-
heard, go ahead,
I
D-Rob.
know he's probably going to make throws against coverages that he wouldn't make that throw against in a game
Right.
just because of what you talked about earlier. But do you get, like the 2 interceptions in the end zone, are you more annoyed because he made those throws because they were inaccurate, he didn't put the ball where it was? Or do you just say, you know what, he never would have made that throw in a game and it doesn't really matter?
No, every down is a coaching opportunity for us. So, you know, I felt like one, he was probably late to a throw, left it inside. Dewey made a great play in the corner of the end zone. Another one was a naked. He thought there was going to be a pressure. He pulls up on a naked, which is not something we typically do. But he thought he saw something. He didn't as we go. We watched the film. Immediately he knows. Really, he came off the field right then. I was clean one night. Yeah, you were clean. Continue to attack the edge. The play expresses itself completely differently. They're learning opportunities. Do I think he would have thrown that in the game? Probably not. For the most part, he's been a good decision making when it's come to throwing the ball in harm's way as it goes. But that's something that I'd rather happen today than in September. So those are things we'll continue to encourage him to take his opportunities to push the ball in certain situations, especially in practice. But again, just communicate with us. Why'd you do that? What made you pull up on a movement play to begin with? Why'd you end up throwing that ball there? Did you like the way you threw the ball? You know, all those certain things. It's just getting the right feedback as we go.
Speaking of communication, one thing we've kind of heard from players and from a lot of the assistant coaches when we spoke with them back in June is this renewed sense of transparency, communication. Obviously, a lot of that is on the defensive side of the ball with the new staff, but on the offensive side of the ball, did you guys have like a ground zero, like, hey, we need to be more open with each other conversation, or how do you, each season, it's a new roster, so to
Right.
speak, how do you build that trust?
Well, I don't know if it's been a new thing necessarily. I think that's just kind of the environment we've created in that offensive room with those guys, where they understand we want to empower them. They're the guys ultimately that step in between the lines. So it really, what we think we're communicating to them versus what they're taking in, that's the most important thing. So we need to know exactly how you see this. So a lot of things will happen on the field, and our first question is, why did you do that? We just want an explanation. We're not trying to see if we're not trying to catch you for doing something wrong. We just want to know why you thought that way. And then if you thought a certain way that we weren't expecting, we need to go back to the way we communicated it to begin with. So ultimately, all it is to get on the same page, whatever that may be. So we're all moving towards the same direction as we get into September and get these games where things really matter now.
Thanks,